Okay, 9:50 p.m., 5/17/2017. I thought I would come over here and look at my Facebook home thing while I talk about these murders / attempted murders. And because it's late at night, it wasn't going to be the easiest thing to do anyway. You know, talking about this kind of thing isn't all that simple, okay? So I'm going to begin it at home, where my recollect takes me, and that's to our first son. I told this before, but because I'm doing this new video about specifics, okay? Our firstborn did not look right. His hair resembled like straw to me, and I kept it nice. And his eyes they looked kind of distant. And he kind of had like a shallow complexion. Everything tested out okay, and we took him home. But this began to bother me the more and more I held him and looked at him, to the point of me bringing it up for discussion, not only to John and to my parents, but I had brought it up also with the chief of staff, who was my gynecologist, and others present that day, where they began laughing at me and calling me a hysterical new mom. Okay, then we had to put him in the grave, which was extremely difficult. And as I had mentioned the other night, I had a meltdown and had to be hospitalized 30 days at Charter. Okay, they kept me on the meds from there on until much later there was a change. Alright, that's number one. You might not want to call it a murder, but I believe it was. And they had also said in that in the ER that day, after I called 911. See, we didn't have a phone installed yet. We were still waiting for a phone installation. And we were at that house my mom had bought us. And I had to run up the street to where I knew a woman had a phone who was friendly to me. Pouring down rain. On the way back, a girl, one of those in-home care girls, showed up at another nearby neighbor's house to do their whatever they needed, blood pressure or I don't know what, get their vitals or something, which can all be done by app now. And she asked me what the problem was because I apparently looked like something was wrong and running. And I wanted to keep running, but I hollered back and told her, something's wrong with my son, I think he's dead. She came running after me, and her and John had him revived once, but in waiting for the ambulance, we lost him again. They lost him en route. So at the hospital, after we got there, we might have had a car then, let me think. Unless she gave us a ride. Which I don't think she did. I think we might have had a little Pinto. Anyway, they accused me of murder. They were going to it's kind of foggy to me, but John had related it. They were going to get me charged with murder. And that's when he said that maybe they ought to think about doing an autopsy first. Which they did, and it was found to be sudden infant death syndrome, aka SIDS. Okay, so I didn't mean for the first one to take 5.5 minutes, but it did. So, okay, on to the second one. To me and to others it was suspicious, but it was ruled as a natural death, which was Irene Crawford. And we had met Bill. Bill was the one that we were in touch with after Mom gave us this little ad she clipped out of the newspaper one time. It was something like, are you having problems with family services or something like that, and contact me, Sergeant Justice, or contact Sergeant Justice, P.O. Box. And that's what I did. I sent a postcard, and then 3 days later or so we got a reply. So best I remember, he came over first, and then we just started hanging out, and he'd come pick us up. Because at that time we didn't have a car. And he'd come and get us in his Santa Claus and Fireworks van. It was a window van, not a panel van. And take us to his house and feed us. He always liked to pick steak and these really big fat potato wedges for French fries that he deep fried. It was always awesome. It was always the same thing because his son wouldn't eat anything else. Pardon me. Okay, so that's number 2. Okay, now John started having problems. And I read earlier, I might still have it up here, if I can see it. Oh, there it is. I made the comment on one of my videos. Here it is. Thank goodness we have it up. About the heart attack weapons. Wonder if this one's it. Might be on down here. That was the first one Sorry for the dead silence, but here we go. If you are finished off with a heart attack or stroke, all induced remotely, who's to know? Mention being hit from a plane or a helicopter or a car parked on your street. The shadow government that has instigated these hits on you has set up the framework, and they're banking on it. Your society, they hope, will instantly label you a paranoid schizophrenic, and there are plenty of psychiatrists in the pocket of Big Pharma happy to misdiagnose you as such. Okay? John's heart problems, I'm not saying they were caused with one of these weapons, one of these covert weapons, because I don't know that for sure. But this sitting outside their car, or sitting in their car outside across from your house or something, targeting your house, that goes along with this other video that I included down here, because my husband, in the recent 6 or so months, maybe 8 months, had identified 2 vehicles that he remembered sitting across from our house at the downtown house. Light blue Crown Vic, which Crown Vic was, at least, I don't know about now, a popular police car. But then they had the unmarked cars too, and a brown Explorer with a whip antenna. And I made a video of that, because I don't remember seeing them, but that doesn't mean that they weren't there, because remember, the medicine I was issued and took regularly as prescribed, and all the other trauma that they were inflicting us with, that could have canceled out my memory of these two vehicles, whereas it didn't cancel out John's memory. You know? Okay, so, and I at one time thought I had an idea who might have been in that one, but he said as soon as he looked over, the driver, maybe both drivers, ducked, like scrunched or crouched a little below the steering wheel to not be so easily recognized with detail. So there's that. And then it says up here too, they did have me at one time, at the first. It didn't last very long that it changed. As this right here, and I don't even like to talk about it, as a schizophrenic. Then it went to bipolar. And I was medicated as a bipolar for a really long time, over 10 years. And, see, where else was I going with that? Oh, I ran across an article one time when someone was talking about schizophrenics, that there had been, at one time, over 200,000 cases of misdiagnosed schizophrenia in this country. So with that, I'm going, that's a lot of people mismanaged and misdiagnosed, and then mismedicated, and maybe even locked up for it, you know? That's an awful lot of people. So, that's like Kansas City. Well, no, Kansas City's bigger. But anyhow, you get the picture. And then this one. Meanwhile, targeting you gives them plenty of reason to start a bogus investigation. Which I really do believe is spot on with ours. Okay, so on to the next thing. Some of us were definite that Irene's death was not a natural death. But, let's see, who's next? Oh, then I went to John with his heart problems. And he ended up on nitroglycerin and some other meds. Okay. Then when they sent our second son home on a heart monitor with me on chlorpromazine after the death of our first one, and he died that night. And I've mentioned this too before in another video. If I hadn't have been able to act as I did and bring him back, even though I had been caused to forget the CPR I'd had several times prior to that, of course they would have framed me. They would have put me smack dab in prison, just like they had mentioned wanting to do with the first one there in the ER that time. And so here I am winding down on 15 minutes already, so I will most definitely have to continue this in the next video. Thanks for watching.